Welcome to Anime Out of Context, a comedy review show hosted by a basement dweller who grew up scrounging terrible fan subs on sketchy websites prior to the convenience of modern streaming, alongside a willfully ignorant soul whose only knowledge of anime comes from the shows forced upon him here. This show will contain spoilers, incorrect information, and copious amounts of adult language. Our hosts are not experts on any topic, and everything they say should be taken with a grain of salt. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Anime Out of Context, the show where I attempt to explain the sometimes weird, sometimes wonderful, but always hilarious world of anime.
And I file a sexual harassment charge against God himself.
I'm Shaun Rollins.
I'm Remington Chase.
Alright, Remington. We've had a rough, month and a half, let's say. Not in terms of, podcasting, but just in terms of our physical health.
Yes. We're finally recovering. Finally, after an October and a half, we're finally on the up and up.
Yeah, we still feel sick for the most part, but we're in a state where we can get away with, only a handful of coughs, and we don't feel like dying at the end of recording a single part of an episode.
I mean, I still feel like dying at the end of recording a single episode, but that's because anime.
I mean, yes, but Rem, buck up, Buttercup. That's what we gotta deal with these days. It's part of the situation you find yourself in.
Ah, Buttercup, you say. So this week's anime is Powerpuff Girls. I've solved your riddles, tricky ginger.
Curses, foiled in my own plots and ploys. No, Rem, if we were ever to do Powerpuff Girls, I feel like that's probably something that you're gonna have to organize. Because I don't think I could justify it personally. But no, Rem. Today we're actually going to be watching something that is hotly enjoyed, hotly debated, and quite frankly, for once is about adults, which I appreciate.
Okay.
So Rem, tell me, how do you feel about dystopias?
I feel like I'm not quite ready yet, but it's just one of those things where, ready or not, here they come.
Yeah. You think you got a good thing going, it's like, oh man, we got a great topia in here, I can't wait to put the U in front of it. But unfortunately, usually when you put that U in front of it, things quickly turn into a dis, which is, unfortunate.
But I will say we've done very few dystopian anime, albeit we have also one of the few that we have done is quite recent.
Yes. Because Rem, today we're going to be talking about a specific flavor of dystopia, and it's what I would say is one of the grungiest, grittiest ones that on paper sounds like it would be a utopia. It's like, oh man, technology is incredibly advanced and incredibly powerful, and everybody can have a connection to it. But in actuality, the divides of all the different people in this setting are way huge and way horrible, and there's a lot of bad shit going around.
Yeah.
Because today, Rem, we're going to be talking about probably one of the most popular anime of the past couple months. Rem, we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk Edgerunners today.
Okay. I have had quite a few people who are like, hey, have you seen this? And I'm like, no, it's anime adjacent. I can't. Anything that is anime or could conceivably be covered on this podcast, I'm just not allowed to watch. So even though it's been recommended to me a bunch, I've just had to be like, yeah, sorry, I know you're excited about this, but this conversation has to end right now.
Yeah. And it's not just anime adjacent, Rem. It's full on anime. This is produced by Studio Trigger in Japan.
Ah, shit. Well.
Yep. It is a full-blown anime that is an adaptation of the Cyberpunk universe.
Oh, they had a chance.
Which, oi, Rem. It's produced by CG Project Red, which is a European company, if that makes it feel better.
I mean, I've heard how things have gone. Speaking of Cyberpunk, I've seen how things went for the game, I've heard it's good now, okay? I've
Yes.
but
They've made a
nonetheless,
lot of improvements. Look, Rem, we're not game reviewers, for obvious reasons. We could do that. We could talk about like the problems of specific game companies. CG Projekt Red has some serious problems in it. Not as serious as other companies like I don't know Blizzard per se. But there is some problems there. But we're not here to talk about that. Rem, we're here to talk about Cyberpunk specifically because it is a very honestly fantastic setting. Do you know much about it?
well, it's Cyberpunk.
That doesn't explain anything, Rem. Come on, I need some details. Do you know what Cyberpunk is?
Yes, it is a dystopia where often it will have an emphasis on class divides, where hyper technological oligarchy rules. There's a few different flavors on what that technological oligarchy can look like, as well as the degree of sort of like of tech tyranny there is, whether it's just like a part of life, or whether it's like the robots are in charge, or whether it's just like they're about equal in their role to biological things. All that fun stuff. Also, bisexual lighting out the ass.
Oh, yes.
Neon, bisexual lighting everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that is genuinely a fairly decent overview of it. The main theming of Cyberpunk is very much, hey, we're in the future and we've got a lot of cool stuff, but society as a whole is real fucked in a lot of ways. Very heavily leaning into like the capitalization. What? Capitalism side of things. And things like Blade Runner would be considered cyberpunk, I believe. Blade Runner, Akira, if you recall, back in the day when we covered that could be considered cyberpunk in a lot of ways. It is quite frankly a very fun, gritty sci-fi setting.
I know one thing about this series.
Oh, one thing about this series specifically.
Yes, that it has been unavoidable. I mentioned before, I try to avoid spoilers, but sometimes it is impossible for me to do so. The internet is really horny over the blue-pink bitch.
Rebecca.
Sure.
Probably.
They're really horny about Rebecca.
Yeah, this character right here.
Yes.
Yep.
That is all that I know nothing about Rebecca, besides people calling her waifu.
That is definitely the case. I'll break it down simply to you, Rem. Rebecca is a little crazy and like super genki. That is basically the way it goes for her.
Okay, fair enough.
One of her first interactions is pointing a gun at like the main character.
Good start.
Yep. And small and zany characters, people love that. But this anime, it takes place in the Cyberpunk universe, which is an RPG series actually, Rem. I don't know if you're familiar. Like tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
Right?
I've seen it. I'm not very familiar with the system itself, but I do know of it.
Yes, it is a very like gritty, real fun setting that takes place primarily in a futurized California type place, in a big city called Night City, which is, if you were to take like all of New York and Los Angeles and just really smash them together while also amping up the futuristic tendencies and throwing a lot of Japanese influence in there, which is pretty common with any kind of cyberpunk setting. And it is very much all about living with cybernetic implantations and trying your best to survive in this rather harsh and very unjust world a lot of the time.
Sure.
It is, quite frankly, a very fun and interesting setting that I'm glad is getting a lot more attention these days. Some people say it's being overdone right now, which is wild to me because it's only, properly been around it's only been in the mainstream view, as it were, for like the past couple years.
Yeah.
Like more, which has been helped by the release of the Cyberpunk game and this anime. And this anime is all about a specific group of people in this setting, a group of people called Edgerunners, which is kind of what they call mercenaries in this setting.
It's what they call Dylan if he ran a marathon.
That's not too far off, honestly. But yes, essentially, Edgerunners are just that. They are for hire people who are willing to do just about any job, willing to break the law and anything, just for the proper payday. Proper mercenary stuff, but with a more futuristic cybery name.
Sure.
And this story is about our main character, David Martinez, who is he's kind of down on his luck, needless to say. Living in, one of the shittiest parts of Night City, and trying to do his damnedest to, climb the ladder to hopefully, get up to the highest echelon of society, working for the Arasaka group, which Arasaka in this setting, Rem, is the big bad corporate overlord that owns basically everything.
Ah, all right. They're
Yep.
Disney or Amazon.
Both combined, really.
Ah,
That's that's how corrupt they are.
Ah, fuck. This is some advanced future. We have at least, 4 years?
4 years before that happens. The second we start getting cybernetic implants available to the general public, that's when you know shit's about to go down.
Sean, what do you get? All right, they offer cybernetic implants, right?
Right.
It's early test. They've done tests and say it's safe, but they haven't gone through the FDA. Shit's super dope as hell. Do you do it?
How expensive is it?
They'll pay you to trial it.
Oh, in that case, fuck no. Absolutely not. Are you fucking out of your mind? No way.
They're very it's late testing. It's late stage testing.
Absolutely not. And this anime will be a nice example of why that's a bad idea, actually. Funny you mentioned it.
I don't know, I'd probably do it. Then again,
no, you would.
Then again, if you're frankly, the only reason that I am not actively in so many clinical trials right now is just because I am too lazy to put in the work to find them. Otherwise, oh man.
So guys, we have a Patreon, and clearly we need it, because otherwise Remington's gonna do some very scary things. The man doesn't even have health insurance currently. We're working on that, but it's...
Who needs health insurance when you can just get tested by a bunch of strange medical nonsense and get paid for it? That is my health insurance, Shaun.
Oh boy, Rem, I worry for you. That's patreon.com/anime out of context, by the way.
If I ever get symptoms, I'll just look around and they'll be like, hey, do you have these symptoms that seem like you're about to die? Well, try this thing and you'll get paid. And I'll be like, cool, all right. A cure and money? It's the future of insurance.
Oh god, I think you might need to watch this show more than anything, or at the very least, play some more of the Cyberpunk setting, because my god, you need some lessons to be learned. But at any rate,
if there's anything I've learned from Black Mirror, it's that cutting edge technology is always a good thing.
Yeah, no, Black Mirror definitely dips into some Cyberpunk here and there. But let's see, back to the show, Rem. Our boy David here, at one point he essentially comes wrong place, wrong time type scenario. He gets stuck in a situation that kind of throws his life out of whack, and he comes in contact with a very rare experimental piece of technology. And he uses this to hopefully get revenge against the people who have essentially ruined his life. Thus, in the process, ruining his life just a little bit more, since, it's highly dangerous, illegal technology.
Yeah.
And left with no other recourse, using this new technology, he becomes an Edgerunner, and that's essentially how our story begins.
All right, dope. I'm confident because people who are less weeby have recommended this to me, which gives me confidence.
Yeah, a lot of people are considering this show to be very much like a bridge anime, as it were. Like an anime that allows, all the fans of anime and fans of non-anime alike to really come together on something for once.
Yeah.
Because it's a fairly adult series. It's done by Studio Trigger, who's a fantastic animation studio.
Yeah.
Characters are adults, which is a big thing. And it's in a setting that a lot of people love and find fascinating, and it is, nice, dark, gritty, and edgy, just the way we like our dystopias to be.
Hell yeah.
So, without further ado, Rem, let's get straight into it. Let's go watch some Cyberpunk Edgerunners. We've peaked with a sexually harassing god. That is where we've peaked.
we peaked. Fantastic 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back after watching all 10 episodes of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. And Remington, gotta know, is this really the anime that deserves all the hype it's gotten in the past couple of months, or is this just another weird, over-the-top anime thing that just doesn't make any sense to you?
Cyberpunk Edgerunners deserves a certain degree of hype.
Whoa, Rem. Contain your excitement, sir.
That being said, I do not believe it to be deserving of the degree of hype it has received.
Ooh, what a controversial claim. You think it's got some merits, but it has too much merits currently, is what you're saying.
It is being given more merit than it deserves, but it does deserve some merit.
Man, can't wait to see how people feel about your opinions on this. So let's go straight into it, Rem. And if you have any questions about any of the jargon or particular terms, I can hopefully clarify them for you.
We'd be here all episode, Shaun.
It's a full setting, Rem. They had to use all of the stuff built up over the years.
Yes. Fortunately, it's not just jargon. There's world building behind the jargon for once. Like, one of the nice things about this is that it's a setting. A lot of work has been put into this setting, right? Before this show. So they have a lot to work with. Unsurprisingly, world building really solid in this show. Similar, the animation and art style of this show, super fantastic, superb, delightful.
Yeah, no, Studio Sugar went all out with really leaning into the cyberpunk aesthetic, from the way the city looks to the character designs to the fashion, and just really leaned into the over-the-top style that is the cyberpunk setting.
Yeah. So, episode 1, we open up with this, like, cyber terrorist going crazy, killing a bunch of cops, having to have some, like, military people come down and stop him, and kill him. And then our protagonist, good old David, he wakes up. He was experiencing all of that from the cyber terrorist's perspective. It's a variation on it's like live streaming a snuff film, I suppose.
Yes, it's a BD dive, essentially like a virtual reality replay of somebody's memories that were recorded at the time.
Yeah.
And they use them from everything from pornography to subterfuge to, watching terrorist activities.
Yep. So, after that, David talks with his mom a little bit, goes to school. There's some mysterious rainbow girl that catches his attention for reasons that we do not know yet. And do we ever...
It's stylistic choosing. It sticks out to him, it's a little bit of flair, mostly,
Oh, okay. Because it felt like there was something more to that.
Nah.
All right, cool. There's quite a few things like that where they gesture towards... They are like, oh yeah, and you know why this is important? And I'm like, not really, you gonna tell me? And it's like, anyway, moving on. And I'm like, hold up. Is it actually important? Am I missing something? Or is this like, I needed to play the game or some shit to understand what the fuck is going on? Because I'll say right now, I think this is definitely a better show if you have played the game. Almost certainly. And I have not played the game. So I feel like there's a lot of things that if you play the game, you'll be like, oh yeah, of course. Then you're gonna hear me be a little confused about.
Yes, that's a fairly...
And not just in the world building, all right? Not just in the world building, but also just like with some events and with some characters. I think that while this anime seems to be a pretty solid adaptation, it suffers a little bit to a moderate amount as a standalone adaptation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely works better if you have some degree of knowledge going into it. Anyway, continuing. Because David has modified his student headset thingy, it ends up frying other students' systems, and he vaguely gets in trouble for it. Talks with his mom. There's going to be like some fees and stuff. It's going to be rough. He talks with his mom, and David isn't even sure if he wants to go to school, but his mom is like, "You're going to go to the top of the corporate ladder, bucko. Look, I've worked my entire life just so you can have some degree of success more than I did, so don't fuck it up. Right now, you're fucking it up a little bit." And in that moment, there's some like gang warfare that breaks out on the highway that leads to a car crash. And unfortunately, they don't have insurance. David and his mom, they don't have insurance. And his mom is in real rough state. He's able to get her into surgery, fortunately, with some like shady fucker. And the surgery is a success. As he's bringing back his mom's stuff, he finds some cyberware, this cybernetic spine, right?
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, that's interesting." He thinks about maybe selling it. The next day at school, he talks to his school bully, who's also like the principal's son or some shit. Not the principal's son, it's someone's son. Someone important's son.
Mm-hmm.
And the bully has some good chipware, so the bully kicks his ass. Then we learn that, as it turns out, surgery wasn't as successful as we thought. The mom is actually dead. And bills are piling up. Things are going rough for David, so he has a bit of a breakdown. So he decides, you know what, fuck all this shit. I'm just gonna get that spine installed into me. And so he does. So that's episode 1. It's essentially the story about David's really, really, really bad day. Which is a solid hook, right? Here's the one major problem that I have with it that sort of leads into the rest. One of the most important storylines in this whole anime is going to be about David's transformation, right? And I don't think we see enough of any amount of happy, cheerful David. Like, even before all this terrible stuff happens, I don't know, he's pretty melancholy and complainy and whiny, I'll be honest. So the sort of transformation is from sort of bland, immature asshole to sort of bland, immature asshole with a dead mom.
Jesus. Okay. Man. I mean, as somebody who also doesn't have health insurance, shouldn't you be a little more concerned, Rem?
I don't define myself by that, though. If that was my only personality trait, oof. And he's not the blandest of bitch protagonists, but he is pretty bland. His thing is that he's got a chip on his shoulder, he's a little bit arrogant, and he has general remorse sometimes. That's sort of it. And that'll be sort of be a recurring theme. Character work. This show is amazing at character concepts, right? Like, if you were to pitch any of these characters, oh, fuck yeah, right? Like, the pitch for David would actually be pretty solid. As with the pitch for most of the characters we're going to get introduced to, unfortunately, they're just the pitch. I've railed on this before about this, like, oh, interesting premise, where do you go? And then they don't go much of anywhere with it. That's a lot of these characters, which isn't the worst thing, because in large part, this isn't a story about the characters, but also in large part, it still is. So, elements of the story that are more about the environment and the world, those work out pretty strong and are super interesting. But when it's focusing on the characters, it doesn't work as well, which is unfortunate. I would say it's about like a 50-50 balance on that. So, but let's continue and let's meet some other characters, shall we? So David gets it installed, and it basically lets him slow down time for everybody else, and he speeds up, and he's able to, but he has to be careful. In episode 2, he talks to the doctor, who's like, oh, you gotta make sure you're only doing this like 2 to 3 times daily max. But David, he's a fucking natural, so he can do it a bunch before he still gets a little bit fucked up. He shows up, just attacks the bully and beats the shit out of him in the middle of a classroom, which is caught on camera. But the bully's dad or some other relevant, important person, I'll be honest, they all sort of blend in together at this stage. is like, instead of being like, what the fuck, he's like, hey, that David kid, he could be a useful tool. Because that's how it's Cyberpunk, all right? Everything's for that top dollar.
Oh yeah, the higher up you are on the corpo scale, the more likely you are to be the biggest prick of all time.
We see Rainbow Girl again, this time in sort of a bus system. She's stealing chips from people. She tries to steal one from David, but he catches her and is like, hey, yo, what the fuck? And she's like, oh, I only steal from the rich, and you come from the rich school. And he's like, yeah, but I'm actually a broke-ass bitch, you see. And she's like, all right, want to steal together, I guess? And so they do, until he has a nosebleed and faints. Lucy saves him. They takes him to an ambulance. Then the ambulance person is actually a scavenger and is like, I'm gonna kill him. And then Lucy's like, oh no, you aren't. And then Lucy turns into an absolute badass for, I think, like, the only scene where she feels like a dangerous badass. Because other times she'll be a badass, right? But in this time, she's like, this will make sense as we introduce this next character. But it feels a lot more Rebecca in this scene. And it doesn't really give you an accurate impression of how Lucy is going to act. Because she just doesn't really do this shit ever again. It's an odd one. But nonetheless, she saves David's life, takes him to the clinic. The doctor helps him out, but is also like, you gotta be careful. You've used it like 8 times today. What the fuck? And gives him some basically meds to help him out at the cost of like basically everything that they've worked on thus far. They go to Lucy's place. They hang out. We learn a little bit more of Expos. She's like, oh, I've always wanted to go to the moon. They have a little moon date in VR before he's woken up by a bunch of violent thugs who want his implant. All right, episode 2, it's all right. So far, Lucy's character is exclusively Manic Pixie Dream Girl in episode 2. Oddly, it's only in this episode she's a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. After this, her character will change, but not for the better. I'm gonna say it, Lucy's sort of trash. All right, let me describe Lucy's character for you real quick, all right?
All right.
1, she wants to go to the moon. 2, she wants to protect David. 3, she's generally cold and stoic to most people. That's it. That's the whole thing. Am I missing any fundamental personality traits, Shaun?
Not entirely. I mean, there's the whole traumatic past dealing with being essentially a child.
I feel like that's covered in
stuff.
just being generally cold. Like, that's the reason why she's generally cold and standoffish. Just like the reason that she wants to protect David is because, I don't know, she immediately fell in love with him, I guess.
I mean, it wasn't immediate. It kind of happened over time.
Hey, it took like at least a day. It was the second time they ran into each other. Come on. Yeah, so Lucy is not a good character. Like, where's David? I'm like, he's not great, but he's not bad. He's just like, whatever. Lucy is sort of trash, which is unfortunate because she is very important. She is a very important character and also the primary love interest. But, like, I don't give a shit about their romance. There's not any warmth. It's, I want to protect you. No, but I want you. What's best for you, though? Okay. Oh, man. Feel that warmth between them? Feel that real connection? No, of course you don't. I saw that people were like, oh, man, I was more invested in this relationship than any other relationship I've seen in media in years. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What am I missing about these two? I don't get it. But we'll keep going. We'll go to episode 3. The thugs who wake up David from the moon VR. They're discussing their plan, and essentially they want the spine that's been installed into David. And Lucy set him up. She's part of their gang, and so they all chat, they negotiate, and eventually it's basically like, maybe, all right, you work with us now then. That's fine. David is told that if he gives an apology, then he'll be able to return back to school, but he's like, nah, fuck that shit. We meet the gang, which is mostly just a lot of meaningless names at this point. And I'll be honest, most of them are just, one of them matters. Well, two of them matter-ish. We'll get to them. Anyway, we have David. He helps out a bunch. Mission goes wrong, but they're able to save it towards the end. And then there's an after party. All right, so that's episode 3. And I suppose let's talk about the characters of the gang, right? We have Pillar. He is a pervert with long arms. We have Dorio. She is real buff. We have Kiwi. She just think of Lucy's older sister, and that's it. And then you're set. Whatever you're imagining, boom, it's the right thing. She shouldn't be relevant because she has no personality, and yet she plays one of the single most important roles in the entire show later. Why? And then we have Maine. Maine is a solid character. Maine, he's the big old leader, right? He's gruff mob boss type of feller who's like, I'm gonna kick ass, but I'm gonna take care of my own. All right, it's not terribly original, but I'll take it. It's a character, all right? Second most interesting character, I guess it's Pervy McLongarms. So that's where we're at. Also, of course, the one who I'd seen people be horny for, there's Rebecca. She's the lolly of the group, and she's the most. All right, spoilers in this statement, but I assume we're in episode 3. You should have figured this out by now. You should have figured out there would be spoilers. Rebecca is the only interesting character who will survive later, right? Survive past episode 6, I guess. She's the only one at all interesting that survives that long. Everyone else sort of sucks that survives. Rebecca, yeah, she's vaguely interesting. She's at least fun to be on the screen. Here's the thing. She's basically just your standard angry lolly with a little bit more depth and humanity, but it's still just so much better than the bland ass bullshit most of these characters are.
Oh, man, Rem, I can't believe you're insulting everybody's favorite character. How could you?
Hey, I'm saying that Rebecca's the best one who is relevant after episode 5. There's episode 6, I don't remember. But that should be a compliment.
But you're framing it in such an insulting way, Rem. I don't know, man.
They also have this weird, shitty plot where it's like, oh man, she's into David, but David is with Lucy. Oh no. And it's like a love triangle that isn't one. I looked up comments, which I normally don't do, but I saw the entire show, so, spoilers can't affect me anymore. And people were like, oh man, I kept hoping that Rebecca would end up with David. What the fuck are you talking about? They had one scene where Rebecca was like, oh man, I wish I could get his attention. And that is it. Once again, there's no romantic chemistry at fucking all. Y'all, stop trying to force romance where it don't belong. Rebecca had general interest, but don't pretend it's some tragic tale where it's like, oh no, I can't believe it's so sad she didn't end up with David. No, it's really not important or meaningful. And if the show really wanted it to be important and meaningful, it did a terrible job at displaying that. Which isn't to say that Rebecca's relationship with David isn't meaningful. No, if anything, they probably have the best and most interesting relationship out of anybody, but that's not saying much. That's a low bar, and it's still not romantic chemistry, so y'all need to fucking chill.
Really, Rem, I feel like it's more of the fan base really liked Rebecca a lot and just wanted nothing but good things for Rebecca.
Yeah, I understand, because after episode 6, that's where all of the personality comes in. That's interesting things are happening, but the only person I care about in episode 9 is fucking Rebecca. That's it. That's all that matters. She's the only one. Because let me tell you right now, all right, by episode 9, here are the quote-unquote survivors, all right? You got David, you got Lucy, you got Rebecca, and you got Kiwi, and you have Falco. Some of you now will say, hey, wait a minute. You said you were going to introduce to us all of the important characters. Who the fuck is Falco? All right. Falco gets properly introduced genuinely, I think episode 8, he's the driver, and episode 8, 9, and 10, like, he's sort of been a part of the team this whole time, but I don't know if he has any dialogue before episode 8. And then all of a sudden in episode 8, 9, and 10, it's like, oh yeah, Falco, you're our boy. Hell yeah, Falco. We all know how reliable Falco is, right? And I'm like, well, excuse me? Pardonnez-moi, motherfucker? Who the fuck is this dude? But Falco also, for some reason, is one of the most important characters. Falco's an example. Falco has to be in the game, right? Right?
Actually, none of these characters, except for Adam Smasher, is in the game. Well, and the Fixer, a couple of, like, the characters we don't really see on screen, like,
then what the fuck is Falco's deal? Because he's just not... He just shows up in episode 8 as if we've had this long-standing connection with him, when, no, we haven't. Maybe we've seen you in the background a couple times, bud. But what the fuck?
I mean, he's voiced by Matthew Mercer in the dub.
But I don't understand.
I mean, he's been in the back. He was in the background throughout the whole show, but he didn't really have any relevance until.
Yeah, and it's not like it's like they're like, "Hey, Falco, now we need you for real." No, in episode 8, they're like, "Oh yeah, Falco, who we all know and are very familiar with, right?" That's not great storytelling, folks. Episode 4. All right, episode 4.
Oh, you know what? Falco is in the game, apparently.
Aha, is he? But I assume he's not important, given the fact you didn't.
Well, I haven't beaten the game myself.
Oh, you're speaking out your ass then. I can't trust your words.
Well,
is Falco surprisingly important in the game, and is that why they felt the need to shoehorn him into relevance where it really didn't belong? Don't get me wrong. I think Falco had potential to be an actually interesting character if you introduced him fucking sooner, bud.
Considering I just read through the part he plays in 2077, and there's a strong chance that he got added in after the anime. I can't tell you.
Well, episode 4 is an episode where...
Yep, it is. He was added afterwards.
I see. There's a big old montage of David getting better, learning the ropes of everything. Then you have a random street pisser who kills Pillar. If you want context on that, there's not really much at all. Pillar got into someone's face for pissing on the street, and they killed him. Then also in this episode, David and Lucy kiss. And Lucy's like, I don't want you to die, which establishes her final personality trait. It's locked in from this point forward. Episode 5. Episode 5 is just building up to episode 6. So I might just sort of skip everything in episode 5.
Oh dear.
Like, I'm trying to think, but it really is set up for episode 6.
I mean, it's mostly them learning about and going after the brain dancer who kind of put a bunch of these cyber psychos on the street just so he could have cool brain dances. That's the name of the
Yeah. He's the one making the snuff films. Episode 6, they capture that dude and use him to lure in I can't keep track of all these fucking people. Tanaka, who is the principal?
He's the headmaster of the academy, yeah.
Dope, cool.
And
he's working for Arasaka, which is one of the main... Yeah. So, which is one of the big corporations along with Militech.
It's the big corporation. Militech is like small potatoes in comparison. Like, they're the closest thing Arasaka has to competition.
Then why did they say that, like, they needed the cyber skeleton to, like, catch up or overtake Militech? It felt odd. We won't worry about that. It's fine. Continuing on, they use him to get to Tanaka, to get to Tanaka's memories and brain and all that info inside his head. So at the same time, Maine, the big leader, he starts losing it, cyberpsychosis. He attacks Kiwi, which means that she can't go into Tanaka's head, so Lucy has to. As she's doing that, cops show up. Maine loses his mind, kills cops, also ends up killing Dorio. Oh no, not Dorio. I like, at least they're doing named deaths. I can admire that. I just also wish that I gave a shit about these characters. It's like, it's halfway there to meaningful deaths. It's almost. There's there's two meaningful deaths in the entire thing, and they're both in the last episode. Tanaka recognizes David and asks for mercy in a pretty solid scene where he makes some convincing arguments where he's like, David, you're being used here just as much as you'd be used if you were working at Arasaka, right? And it looks like David is sort of like thinking it through, being like, those are some decent arguments, before he's interrupted as the others show up. Tanaka's fucked up. They get Lucy out of there. Tanaka is he dies but for a moment, but then comes back to life or something like that. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But he ends up properly dead. They weren't able to get the data they wanted to from him. Main is going proper psycho at this point. He's losing his mind. David wants to help him, and Lucy's like, how about you don't, though? And David's like, nah, I'm gonna. So he does, but then Main is like, nah, you shouldn't help me. I'm gonna die, but here's my cybernetic hands, because I promised those to you. And so David returns to Lucy with that. It was very much like an Outsiders, like, stay golden pony boy moment. This whole thing is basically just like neon Outsiders, which ain't bad. That's a compliment. Take it. But unfortunately now, episode 7 and onward, we're not left with many interesting characters, which is unfortunate. Episode 7, we see that David is now in charge. There's like a sizable time skip, I think, here.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't super agree with. I was okay with it conceptually, but I will say this show needed a few extra episodes.
Yes, a lot of people will agree with you on that front, actually. Right?
Yeah, it needed
only got
some
10
extra time to bake.
It
Yeah,
needed, I think, at least 13.
Yeah, like minimum. If it was 13, once again, to tell the exact same story, I don't want maybe some new events from this time skip. But I think really just letting shit breathe and being able to develop things a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because while a lot of times the fast pace actually did work for it, many other times it was whiplash. It was like, oh shit, okay, I guess this is what it is now. And I had to like catch up to what the fuck was going on. But David's in charge now. They go through, do a mission. Then in this episode, we also hear about Adam Smasher, who is going to be insanely relevant very, very soon.
You could definitely say that. A lot of people really hate Adam Smasher, and you can probably guess why if you've seen the show.
But also, maybe we should have developed him a little bit better. Because it's essentially, oh yeah, by the way, there was this awful fucking monster. His name is Adam Smasher. Anyway, moving on. Well, and then later on, they're going to be like, ah, shit, it's Adam Smasher. He's the big bad.
Let me put it to you this way. He's one of the main, like, antagonists from the game, specifically. You know?
Which feels like it would have made sense either for this just to be a quick little reference to that, right?
Right.
Which would have made sense. Or for this to be mentioned in, like, I don't know, episode fucking 2? Like, episode 7, I'm like, oh, okay, Adam Smasher, interesting. That's not when I should be learning about that. And then you think, okay, well, they still got, like, a couple episodes to develop him. They don't! This little section where they're like, oh, hey, let's briefly talk about Adam Smasher, is most of what we get before he actually shows up. That's not great for how important he is. Guys!
This is the inclusion of Adam Smasher Rem is the biggest example of if you play the game, oh shit, you know this is bad. But if you haven't, they didn't really go super deep into it.
Which they really should have, considering his relevance.
I mean, he is just essentially the boogeyman of the cyberpunk setting, is the best way to think of him.
But you know what? How you, like, look, if I'm telling a horror movie, right, I'm not going to show the horrifying monster early on, but you'll be aware that there's a horrifying monster lurking, right? You'll get the clues. Maybe you'll even hear about it. And then you see it. This one, it's the equivalent of 3/4 through the horror movie being told, oh, by the way, there's a spooky thing. Ah, shit, there he is! It's really bad pacing on that front.
Yeah, you won't find any disagreements from me on that part.
We get some more backstory from Lucy, who has left the team to generally work on stuff that we don't know about quite at this point. Then later, when we learn about it, seems essential. All right, let's see if my understanding is properly, because I would argue it's not explained stellarly, right?
Okay.
She's doing a lot of work behind the scenes to protect David.
Yes. She
Cool.
is a net runner primarily, which is the equivalent of cyber surfing, essentially. And she's
Though I will say, it explains net running like ass. All right.
Yeah.
Like, I would expect us to get like a cool scene net running at some point, because we get quite a lot of scenes where someone is net running, they're in the net, right? But just sort of like they peek around a corner in the net, or they look across the screen in the net, and that's all. We don't, like, you'd expect there to be some like cool, at least one action-packed, interesting scene in the net that's high stakes. We don't get that at all, which sort of feels like, then what the fuck were we doing this whole time in the net? Like, it just never used in an interesting way. So she's basically doing that. It doesn't super matter, and I don't care about what she's doing. I'm not invested. Nonetheless, David is going on more missions. We go to episode 8. He's going on more missions. Faraday decides he wants to work with Arasaka. Faraday is sort of the one who's been behind a lot of the stuff for the gang, right?
Yep,
hiring them on to do
he's
tasks.
a fixer, is what they're called. Think of them as just people who have connections and can get other people work. And
People are important for the plot.
Yes.
He's the one you go to for the quests.
Correct.
All right, and then a bunch of stuff I don't care about happens. David talks with Lucy and is like, hey, I don't know, things are like weird between us. But then Lucy has some like weird cyber stuff happen, and she sees that Netrunner, who she's identified, has gone under. She plans to go kill him, but she gets caught, and it turns out that this is Kiwi's big betrayal. You all know Kiwi, the one without any personality and who has done nothing of note this whole time, has shown no, like, strong sense of loyalty to the group. In fact, her only dialogue is about, like, don't trust people, until the end where she trusts someone and then fucking dies. Don't have Kiwi be the big traitor.
I mean,
I
to
don't
be
give
fair,
a shit about Kiwi. I'm not like, Kiwi, how could you? I'm like, okay, sure.
to be fair though, Rem, who's left? They killed most of everybody in the first half of the series. Like, there's not a whole lot of options left, my guy.
But if you killed off everybody, why didn't you develop the ones you had left? God damn it!
They only had 10 episodes, Rem. CG Project Red did not shell out enough bucks for 13. Animation is fucking expensive, yo.
Then go less ambitious with what you're trying to do. You don't have enough episodes to accomplish what you plotted out. Like, you chose to do this. You wrote it this way. Also in episode 8, hey, by the way, Falco is here. And he's very important now.
Hey, he's voiced by Matthew Mercer. That makes him incredibly important.
Could Matthew Mercer only work like a few days? It wasn't like we got the American voice actor for Falco. They're like, great. Matthew Mercer, we have an amazing character lined up, super relevant the entire story, and they're like, ugh, we only have 3 hours with Mercer, so you might need to cut back on how much you have Falco. They're like, oh, he's like super important towards the end, and they're like, maybe just have him do the end then.
Which is especially good considering that this was originally, made over in Japan and they did all the Japanese dubbing first. But they're like, we really want to use Matthew Mercer for the dub. And we think that his cowboy's aesthetic will go great with Falco. So let's really use him. But, man, It's going to be tricky. He's a very busy man. He's got Critical Role. That takes up most of his time. He's in a lot of other really
And
cool shows.
I listened
Man.
to I did subs, so I didn't even get to hear Mercer's lovely voice.
Hey, Rem, have you ever heard, let's see, I forget what his new name is. Cassidy from Overwatch, formerly known as McCree?
Oh yeah, I pulled up a video that's just Falco is just McCree.
Yes. Yes. Look, they knew what they wanted, and they told Mercer, and he gave them what they wanted.
Cool.
For however
Alright.
little time he was there.
Well, we go to episode 9, where the big corporate baddies plan to give both David and Lucy to Arasaka. So they hire David onto a fake job. And David at this point he has so much added on to him, right? It's wild. It's crazy. Is it necessary? No, not at all. Like, he could, maybe with 1 or 2 modifications, he'd be able to already do anything he wanted. So this is overkill for very little reason. Especially because I feel like he does not have sufficient motivation to go this hard into all of these implants, right? Whereas he has quite a bit of motivation not to do that. Like, I don't know, get good punchy gloves and then you're set. Then you can do or just learn how to aim a gun. You don't need a lot when you're able to, like, slow down time.
Well, it's not that he's slowing down time, it's that he's enhancing his nervous system so much that he can really move incredibly quickly.
Look, I think we can agree it really does not make a difference.
I mean, it does for the lore and the world building and the setting, Rem. Like, if his little spine suddenly stops time around him, that doesn't make any sense. But if it speeds him up super quick and makes him process
ridiculous.
things, then that makes more sense. Look, it's the difference between sci-fi and fantasy, Rem. You gotta have that little background explanation, otherwise it's just magic.
Yes, because if there's any way I would describe this show, it's very grounded. So they
almost as grounded as Rebecca. Ayo.
They get ambushed by Militech, who's coming to stop them. But they're able to get in a sort of defensive bunker with Kiwi, who we know is actually a baddie. We hear about the cyber skeleton, which we've sort of heard about up till now. And it's amped up, it's hyped up to be like, oh baby, you hook yourself into this thing and you will fuck everything up, right? But it'll also fuck you up.
In more ways than one, yeah.
Yeah. It'll fuck you up, you'll fuck everything else up. So David gets a call from Lucy being like, hey, get in. But it was a trick. It was a trap. He gets in, he starts installing himself into the cyber skeleton. And then he unleashes, he takes down the army, right? I will say, wildly anticlimactic. The cyber skeleton, you know what it sort of feels like, Shaun?
What's that, Rem?
It feels like in Fallout 3, when...
Oh god, Liberty Prime?
Not even Liberty Prime. When you first get power armor, right?
Oh, yes.
And it's hyped up. Like, this is power armor. It's the shit, you've heard about it, right? In the lore, like, power armor doesn't fuck around. And then you try it on, and you're like, oh, it's not even the best armor for me to have right now.
It's also not any different from any other armor because they didn't exactly have the coding for anything cooler
Yeah,
back in 07.
it's just pretty decent armor for some builds. I guess I'll switch back out of it. That's very much what the cyber skeleton feels like, where they hyped it the fuck up, and then it's just this big, clunky, sort of mech suit that can, I guess, control gravity. It loses a lot of, like, the sort of dynamic energy of the previous battles, because it's not like this mech suit is doing a bunch of cool shit. No, it mostly just, like, wanders over, powers up, kills. There's not a lot of, like, interesting movement or choreography. Meanwhile, we'll see Atom Smasher, who has his own, like, big old suit, where he's able to be dynamic and do a bunch of cool shit. The cyber skeleton's just clunky and bad.
I mean, I would argue that it's kind of meant to be a bit clunky and bad because, you know, how things turn out. But at the same time, I get where you're coming from.
Just do whatever fucking Atom Smasher's doing, bro.
Well, that's the thing. Atom Smasher literally has the best shit to the point where he is basically just a brain in a jar at this point.
But the whole thing with the cyber skeleton is that it's supposed to be like the prototype of the new best shit.
Yes, that's just it though. Prototype.
Like it's like, oh shit, this is gonna be awesome, and then it's like, oh, here we are, and it's like, oh, is it worth losing your mind for this? Because I feel like you were just as effective before, buddy. Like you were doing just as cool, if not cooler, shit before you got attached to the big mech. It wasn't great. Anyway, now we have the main three of David, who okay, he's now cyberpsychosis out of his mind, struggling on the edge. We have Falco, he's here, and Rebecca, the good one, not even the great one, keep in mind, but the only interesting one. Episode 10, the crew's on their way to save Lucy. Kiwi is called by Faraday, and Faraday's like, hey, we actually have to meet up in person. And Kiwi, the one whose motto is don't trust anybody, she meets with Faraday, and he kills her. Yeah, of fucking course! So Kiwi is just not only bland, super boring, but also dumb as fuck. But in her last message, because she has the information, she calls her old crew and is like, hey Falco, here's all the information you need, because otherwise you'd be pretty fucked. Why am I doing this? Because Faraday betrayed me. Okay, sure, Kiwi. So Kiwi dies and nothing is lost.
I don't know, a lot of people liked her character design.
It was the fucking same as Lucy's.
No, see, it's different because she's missing her mouth.
Oh my god.
She's got like a ninja cyber aesthetic, you know? It's
Oh, fuck off. Anyway, we see that Arasaka has brought in Adam Smasher. Hey, he's relevant again. You know that guy we mentioned 3 episodes ago? In one brief description, he's here, and he's the major antagonist now. Cool. Awesome. So everybody ends up at the tower all together. David is getting ready to kill everybody, but he's stopped by Adam Smasher. They fight for a little bit before David, he saves Lucy, escapes with her, goes to the ground, delivers Lucy. They kiss while he's like sort of losing his mind. Faraday dies. The crew is like, oh, happy to see you, David. And then Adam Smasher kills Rebecca. It is that sudden, which I do like. I like how sudden that was. It's just, she's like, hey, happy to see you. And then she's fucking dead. I dig it.
Probably one of the most gruesome frames of the entire series as well.
Oh, yeah, it's...
Like, I went back and paused afterwards because I was so shocked that it happened, and I was like, holy fuck, they did her awful. Now I understand why everybody on the internet is upset.
Oh, no, like, it's perfect, because it's, like, the only death where it's like, oh, shit, it captures the sort of meaningless of it all, which, in Cyberpunk, hey, baby, that's the fucking MO right there. And how brutal. Very well done. Absolutely delightful. Genuinely, narratively speaking, one of the strongest things that happened due to how sudden and abrupt it was.
Yep.
Falco leaves with Lucy, abandoning David, and Lucy's like, hey, what the fuck? And Falco's like, he told me, he gave me the money, the commission money, and we're gonna split it 50-50. And so it's like, cool, Falco's a bro. I don't know who the fuck he is. He just showed up, but I guess he's a bro.
I mean, you know, he works best at high noon. That's all we can really talk about, as far as I know.
And then Smasher quite easily just kills David. David does not stand any chance.
Yeah, no, because it's Adam fucking Smasher. That's, like, literally his whole thing.
Adam Smasher, I heard a 20-second monologue about him 3 episodes ago. Wow. Adam Smasher looks dope. I don't know. I didn't play the fucking game. I don't know who the fuck this is.
I mean, the first time he shows up in the game, it's fucking terrifying. Because you hear, like, glimpses of it, like, in the prologue, and you actually see, like, a image of him in a brain dance in the game. And it's like, oh, shit, I'm gonna have to fight that guy one day, and I don't want to, because he's big and scary and fucked up in the head. And then he shows up, and it's like, oh, it's time to run type of situation. It was in a cutscene, but still, it was one of those things where it's like, yes, I understand now. This
All
is
the
what
hype that went into the cyber skeleton, right?
should've
Where that
gone
was
into Adam
misplaced hype, it
Smasher.
should have gone to Adam Smasher, who deserved much more hype than he got in the show. It was, you had one thing that ended up being super anticlimactic, and another thing that felt like it came out of fucking nowhere. Just switch those two around, alright? Or just get rid of the fucking cyber skeleton. It's real fucking dumb. It didn't help anything. And there's gonna be people being like, oh no, this is why you can't. Shut the fuck up. In the story, I'm just reviewing the anime, okay? In the anime, he easily could have gotten rid of it. Easy. Anyway, Lucy ends up on the moon, not quite happy, but she remembers Happy David, who I will say, we didn't see enough of. Like, it's supposed to be like, oh, this is the David that was. But, like, not really, though. like, this show's trying to gaslight us a little bit, being like, do you remember when David was just so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? Not really? Not in this show, fella. Like, maybe 10 seconds at the most. Like, we never really got Happy David. There was never a Happy David that transformed into this monster, okay? That's just not... This show wants you to think that's how this happened. It wasn't. Don't fucking gaslight me.
I mean, he was very rude to Rebecca a couple times, which, I mean, hey, that's about as monstrous as you can be.
He wasn't even terribly rude to her. He was just sort of vaguely dismissive in a boss kind of way.
Yeah, but hey, that's going way too far. You gotta give Rebecca all the love and adoration she deserves.
She was the best, but she wasn't amazing. Like,
Rem, you can't say that. That's how we're gonna get the emails. People are gonna be fine with all of your opinions about like the crucial plot points, but if you badmouth Rebecca, all the weird people who find her
just listen to me saying that she's the best one, okay? Just listen to that and forget about the rest.
They won't be able to, Rem. You know that's not how they work.
I enjoyed my time with Cyberpunk. I thought it had some of the best action that we've seen. Visually, it was fantastic. The setting and the world building was solid. The plot that was related to sort of like events and the world was really solid, even if I thought that the plot that was relevant to the characters and their relationships was sort of mediocre to bad. Overall, I'm probably putting this show somewhere at like a 5.5 to a 6, right? So that's a thumbs up. Let's get that covered right now. That's a thumbs up. And not only that, but I would put it in a similar category to what I've talked about some like Ghibli films, like Spirited Away, where that's my rating, but I would recommend people watch it, right? It's worth watching more than its quality is, because it does enough interesting things, especially just like the visuals alone. The world building is really solid. For those reasons, it's worth watching, even if it in of itself is not a fantastic 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Oh, man. Kind of makes you want to go play the game, though, doesn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews. I had one friend be like, oh, it's so much better now. And I had another friend being like, it's still glitching out very often for me. So, you know?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Rim, like, I started researching this one, watched the whole thing, because, you know, I was finally able to after our busy month. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it another playthrough. Give it a go. Try and actually finish it this time. I'm a little over halfway through the game right now, and they did fix a lot of things, Rem. But right now, I can't answer the goddamn phone in-game, and it might have corrupted my save file. There's a non-zero chance that's the case. I'm doing my best to fix it. Literally, right before we started recording, I was playing a little bit, and that is what was going on. I was like, I want to keep playing the game, but it says I'm talking to the fixer when I am very clearly not.
In a lot of ways, I feel like the show is a great representation of the game when it first came out, right? Where, but in this case, just replace the entire audience of the game with just me, all right? Where with all of this hype, I did expect quite a bit more. There are some very impressive things, but there are also some egregious faults that I don't know how they overlooked. So, you know, in a way, very fitting adaptation.
Oh, Jesus. It's almost like you need to give everybody the time and resources they need to truly make something wonderful and fantastic and not rush anything.
Like, if all of the problems in this show are fixable, and this show, once again, does some stellar stuff. It does some stuff that's amazing. It just also, it has a lot of, like, 9 out of 10 qualities. It also has quite a few, like, 2, 3, 4 out of 10 qualities.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear the response on this one, and the response from fans of the game who are going to be very triggered by our comments on the game as well.
Yeah.
So Rem, you got a guess for the mouse score on Edgerunners?
Oh, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be easy 8 point. Oh, how high dare I go?
Just remember, it's the most hyped thing that came out in the past couple months, not counting the stuff that started airing in October.
It'd be wildly undeserving, but I could see this breach a 9, a low 9, but a 9. But I'm going to say 8.72. I'm gonna go wild.
8.72. You really think it made it that high, huh?
I think it's quite possible. Well, but then there's a lot of people who are hyped over it who may not be as typical anime fans. I don't know how to measure them. I don't know how to measure non-weebs into this. And I imagine a significant amount of non-weebs. Ooh, no, but I won't worry about them. Fuck them. We'll see. This is going to be my way to calibrate with them, I suppose.
Do you think that they're going? Do you really think that the non-weebs are going to invade myanimelist.net to write a review specifically to like bring that score down when they could when they are most likely to write something for like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes?
I mean, hey, or maybe they'd bring the score up. I don't know. I don't have the data.
You don't have the data.
There are variables in here that I don't often have to contend with, and therefore I'm just ignoring them. Like any good scientist.
Ah, yes. The variables that we don't want to think about, we just gotta kind of push them to the side a little bit. Put them over there for right now. Maybe we'll come back to them, or maybe not.
So what is the rating, Shaun?
Well, Rem, with 243,000 ratings, Cyberpunk Edgerunners is sitting nice and respectably, you might say, at 8.67.
Ooh, okay. For being that wildly high, I was very close.
You were very close, Rem. Yeah, a lot of people really connected with this show. They loved it to the point where it is...
I saw a lot of people being like, I was crying over this show, right? And hey, I'm happy you found something that makes you feel so strongly, all right? Good for you. Follow up. Why?
Wow, way to invalidate everybody's emotions there,
I'm not
Rem.
validating. I'm inquiring. I am examining because I understand if you think like, oh, hell yeah, that was a wild experience, dude. That was so interesting. But like, none of the characters were good enough to care about their misfortune so deeply. To me.
Hey guys, if you want to roast somebody in the emails, I'd roast Remington. Like, he's the one who's having these harsh criticisms. I thought it was a solid 7 out of 10, personally.
I gave it a 6 out of 10, all right? I gave it a thumbs
that's
up.
so low, Rem. That's so low. Only 2.7% of people who rated this gave it that.
I gave it a thumbs up, all right?
I know you did, but hey, if I give a slightly higher number, that means I'm gonna get less
That
hate.
means you're clear.
Yeah, I'm in the clear.
They'll just hear that you're higher and not like, why the fuck is Shaun missing those 3 points? What the fuck? It's how it goes.
Look, the fact that 26% of votes gave this a 10 out of 10 is astonishing to me. But as somebody who's a fan of like the RPG and the setting and all that jazz,
I can understand. It's like, this is a 6 out of 10, but I understand if it's like your favorite, right?
Yeah.
It's in that category where it's good enough where if you say it's your favorite, even with all of its problems, just because of like, maybe you're like so wildly into Cyberpunk or just like it hit your notes just right? We all have those things that we're like, hey, this isn't perfect, but due to my preferences, it's my top spot. That's fine. That's totally acceptable.
Yeah.
But if you say like, this is a flawless show or like, oh my God, this show does nothing wrong, you're out of your mind.
I'll give you a stat that we haven't ever actually talked about because Mal loves its statistics, And one of the statistics is, as you're creating a list, you can actually put down the status of how far you are in a show and how far you got in a show and whatnot. So the vast majority of ratings are the completed ratings, right? Those are the ones that actually have the majority of the weight. Because, if you've completed a show, it's actually,
Yeah.
your score is going to be a bit more relevant. But for frame of reference, about 274,000 people completed watching it, and about 1.4 thousand people dropped it, and 2.1 thousand people just kind of have it on hold. So it's one of those shows that has so many people that loved it that it's really top heavy in terms of scoring. And the people who had problems with it have been not very vocal about things, at least on this site. So it's just interesting, statistically speaking, to look at and be like, oh hey, that's what's going on. And it also really explains why this show is so highly rated.
Yeah.
I do think that I do still think the saddest part is losing Rebecca, though. Like,
Oh,
I'm not.
She's the only sympathetic character. Like, Main was also, like, generally sympathetic. The writing was pretty on the wall, but it was, that was a solid death. Order of operations, Rebecca's death, number one, most interesting, narratively speaking. Most tragic. And number two, Main, real solid stuff. Number three, I guess David. Number four, literally anybody else who gives a shit.
But hey, at least those deaths were really cool and graphic, Rem.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's not every day you get to see people explode into red paint for no good reason.
Yeah.
Like the one guy in episode 7 who was like super excited to work with David and walked into a mine and immediately died.
See, that would have been so much more interesting if they hadn't done basically that same thing with characters who it pretended actually mattered. Like, it's like, no, yeah, I know that's what you do with characters. I've already I saw what happened to Pillar and Dorio. Like, I'm familiar. And it's like, no, but this isn't like Pillar or Dorio. Those ones mattered. And I was like, what are you talking about? What are you saying?
Oh goodness. Well, I suppose the final question I have to ask for you, Rem, since this one's running a bit long, is any chance you'd like to revisit Edgerunners in your free time, or maybe just play the game? Play the Cyberpunk game, see what that's like.
I would consider playing the game, mostly just because I do love me a Cyberpunk aesthetic.
Oh yeah, and the aesthetic in the game is pretty solid as well. And who knows, maybe we'll trick you into playing it on Twitch or something with all the sensors on. Because I'll tell you right now, Rem, there's a lot of titty in this game.
Also, note, I didn't comment once about all the booba, albeit a lot of it was unnecessary, but I recognize a lot does come with the genre.
You're not like sci-fi cyberpunk genre setting in anime or anything. You're gonna get a lot of booba. Like that is just the nature of the setting. But at least it wasn't like aside from the brain dance scenes, like at the very first 2 episodes, most of it was very casual.
Yeah, it handled it much better than most anime, so while there's some bits and pieces here and there I might have problems with, it just wasn't nearly as important as the rest of what I was saying. Meanwhile, I'm sure there always, without fail, is always at least one person who's just because it has fan service, Remington doesn't like it. We're going to get at least one of these in either the Discord or email. We always do, even in episodes where I literally never bring it up. Shaun can confirm. It happens.
Oh, yeah. You didn't even mention fan service much in the Cuckoos episode, and then we've already gotten some angry emails about that, which I was not expecting to get angry emails about Cuckoos, man. Of all the anime we've covered, I was not expecting to get some discourse on a couple of Cuckoos.
It's how it goes, man.
Look, hey, people have their opinions, and whether or not we disagree with them, that's the show. So I suppose with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. We really appreciated it. If you enjoy Rem having a conniption over another highly overrated anime, then please head on over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. They mean the world to us, and we do read every single one. And if you'd like to see us a bit more frequently, you can head on over to twitch.tv/animeoutofcontext, where you can watch myself, Dylan, and Remington occasionally play video games. And if that is still not enough for you, you can head on over to patreon.com/animeoutofcontext, where you can access all kinds of lovely bonus material, including having the opportunity to be thanked live on the podcast. So, Rem, who are we thanking this week? And let's hopefully get it quickly so that Dylan doesn't kill us for our time crunch this time.
Well, as always, we would like to send our regards to all of our bland bitch protagonists, as well as our magical girls, who we really appreciate. But moving on, we get to our yandere waifus, who are stomping on us from a very, very high building. And on that list, we have Zombie Stomp, very fittingly Zombie Stomp.
Yeah,
Xanax, Yandere Neko, Why Shaun, Humstove. Whenever Misaka walks near Tokiwadai, I don't know where the emphasis goes. Shaun, help.
I'm not looking at it, so I couldn't tell you.
Tokiwadai.
Oh my god. That's Tokiwadai. Yeah.
Tokiwadai. No, fuck.
I think you got it. Like I would throw like a little IE at the end, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at the kanji and then be like, oh yeah, I can't read kanji.
Whenever Misaka walks near this
it's
girl
the name
with...
of the middle school from the setting Misaka's from.
Oh, okay. This girl with twin tails comes out of nowhere and gropes me, says Misaka with a shudder.
Oh yes, that is that happens.
One day I'll understand anything about Misaka.
We'll cover it one day. It's an okay show.
I'll be honest. By the time we cover it, I think I'll have the full story just from this patron.
Oh fuck! Hey, Rem, I'm here to tell you, you won't. Like, we've talked about complicated timeline stuff.
Oh, jeez.
What if I told you it was based on a show that is a spin-off of a much worse show?
Oh, fuck. Walk Me Home Gently, Way to Shell, Trenton Farrell, Totally God, The Susanator, The Big Bean, Tanya Juarez. Static Shock is my favorite anime. Stacy's Mom, Silent Secondary, Shoujo Addict, who doesn't need help, just more manga to read and anime to watch. Shaun still uses Internet Explorer, sounds like he must like it nice and slow. Shaun punish Rem and make him watch Excel World. Salty Pretzel, Ross Palmer, Rhiannon Williams. Remembering to update your Patreon name is really hard when you fall into the shonen manga pitfall. Damn, shonen flop, go check. Rem continues to crush my soul. Prediction out of context, the anime bullshit this week was so bad that Rem has lost his little faith in weebs. Not quite. Paco, No Waifu, No Laifu, Nitsaira, Nick Harvey, MILF Hunter X Hunter, a story about a young Shaun searching for his big-boobed waifu mommy.
Oh dear.
Yes. Chad, the MILF Hunter, the baby bringer. That's what it was.
I don't.
President of the Turtle Club himself.
Oh, fuck me running.
Keika 7 Hierto. Mexican Gone Freaks, Mato2 Max, Lizzie Anthea, listening to with my 2-year-old son so he doesn't become shonen trash. Leave Denji and Pochita out of harm's way, Shaun. King Ritrock, Cassidy, Just a Traveler, Jax, Jamhands. If you game in the die, you for the die in the real, you game in the real for the die game for real, die game for the die. I'm jealous of your heart, it's pounding in you, and I'm not. I'm glad you enjoyed your White Swords gifts in the More Pop YouTube video. I want to feast on your despair, now give me a cool and interesting anime-related pun name, you Irish fuck.
Ah, man. Congratulations, you are now the most dangerous bread-themed Edgerunner, Cyberpumpernickel.
I'll take it! He's figured out the formula, folks. I want Rem to ruin Darling and the Franks for me. Hunter Davies. Hashore sori yokaze no yu ni tsukumaharu wo paruru hashore sori yokaze no yu ni tsukumahara yo wo paruru. Glenn Michael Dolan, Gay Boots X, Fuck Love Fox and Boy, Ferdy the Birdman is still going strong in nonstop November. Farmer Weeb is excited, Christmas is almost here. Fantide, Extreme Cobra. Even though no one voted for horror out of context, I would like a breakdown of haunted house and or interesting experiences you guys have. I don't know, maybe for a pre-banter. Elite Knight, Duck, Drink Chocolate Milk to Prevent Wobbly Bones, not a conspiracy. Dickite Mimicin, Picture and Tris Pentafluorethyl Trifluorophosphate, also known as FAP, and finally Trans 1,4-bis for Pridal F. I did that without looking. I don't know if I got it 100% accurate, but I did it without looking. Darth Pikachu, Crumbslets Bakery might be closing down. Is anyone surprised? It's a health code violation. Creed 13, Cheese Monkey, Charles Crumpton, Cage in the House, Brockhard for Geodudes, Blood for the Blood God, Skulls for the Skull Throne, Big Blue Bear Boy, been super busy with work, the Postal Weeb will get you the good shit as soon as possible, Audio Glitch, and when that final moment came to pass, like Christ, I came riding on an ass. Elise Howard, AJ Tunnels, AJ Honey, Adaze, Aaron Hegland, and now we go to the Boy Wizard tier, where you get the task you avoided by writing a Patreon name. Chris, you get planning your fiance's B-Day. 46 a revisit excluding SAO, insert sad face emoji. I mean, you can't exclude SAO though. Like, that's still a revisit.
Yeah, no, it's one of the most painful revisits for you.
Ooh, interesting. Break for emergency anime puns from Spicitis. I suppose I don't need to read out what's between here yet because you came prepared with an anime pun. But Shaun, if you ever super struggle, Spicitis has your back, and we'll break that for on emergency anime pun.
All right, good to know.
Now we move on to the Boy Wizard tier. Also, Shaun is sending me weeb shit as if I'm gonna watch it.
It's the context for the Japanese that you horribly butchered, so you at least have an idea of what you're doing.
Shaun, you know, I will never watch any anime bullshit you send to me.
Rem, it's 22 seconds.
That's
no, it's not even that, it's 12 seconds.
That's 12 seconds too long. On the Boy Wizard tier, everybody is going to be assigned an episode of Black Mirror to watch.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Yeah, see, makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's wildly appropriate and came to you naturally.
We are sainted by the storm, facing the wind, for we are tainted and forlorn. It's power metal, you're supposed to yell it. I live in an apartment.
Yeah, and it's late.
Yeah,
we
record late. I'm in an apartment. If I was in a house, right? If it was just me and my girlfriend in a house, oh yeah, 100%, I would yell it. Consequences be damned. Unfortunately, I can't.
Rem, we're millennials. We can't afford houses.
That's true. Yeah, but we're podcasters. You get, we'll just go in order. The national anthem. Warning, you're 799 episodes away. You get 15 million merits. Vincent Calabrese, you get the entire history of you. To get into my Rem cosplay, I recite the mantra, become another person. You get, be right back. The Great Buttball of Despair, you get White Bear. Shane Ware would like to request that you watch all of Clan Ed with the BS rule. Also, why are no anime with actual polyamory? I'm sure there are some. You get the Waldo moment.
We watched Kanojo mo Kanojo, and that
fucking hell.
That didn't exactly count. I don't
Shaun,
think.
You are my idol, and just like you, I also liked Boku no Pico. You get White Christmas, reincarnated into an MMORPG with stunning visuals, beautiful themes, and terribly rendered water. It's Violent EverQuest. That's a good one. That's
a great
good.
One. Holy shit, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You should get that on a shirt. Holy fuck.
Nosedive is yours. Please watch Heal a Girl, a cute slice of life about using music to heal people. Also, Rem is still a girl. You get Playtest. My Afro Ate My Dog. You get Shut Up and Dance. Mike Got His Overlord review. You get San Junipero. Miguel De Leon. You get Men Against Fire. Massimo Martelli. You are going to get Hated in the Nation. My Tawa says first 3 arcs of Bakemonogatari is just 8 episodes. You are going to get the USS Callister. Latino stopped eating from confusion about Shaun's relationship with body pillows. You get Archangel. Inuyasha's my favorite cryptid. You get Crocodile. Helarex, you are going to get Hang the DJ. Go ahead, call the cops. It won't silence voices. They're getting louder. Please send help. You get Metalhead. Crimson Reapers, just because of the scythes. You get Black Museum. Beethoven 1201. You are going to get Bandersnatch. Anime Girl, you get Striking Vipers. Animated Z, you get Smithereens. And this Anime Out of Context episode is sponsored by with over 30,000 episodes streaming. Check it out today. If only.
Did they just plug all things
with no
the one company that doesn't need?
I'll be honest, doesn't need this guerrilla marketing.
No, look, hey, if you're gonna use us for guerrilla marketing, make it for something that's a bit more niche or interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna encourage the guerrilla marketing, but like, if you're gonna do it, like.
Anyway, you'll get Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too. And then we have All Fathers counting down until next Bonsai, 48 weeks as of November 15th. Remembering to update names is hard. And you get the special unreleased Black Mirror episode, Oh God, the waifus are sentient. Why is Shaun so horny? All right.
Hey, hold on. don't cast me in the Black Mirror universe. Bad things happen to people in the Black Mirror universe.
Next up, we have the inappropriate Joey Wheeler tier, where Shaun will.
And actually, they already did that episode, apparently, based on this description I'm reading about Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too.
I mean, no, that was different. That was very different. Where Shaun will read Isaac Asimov quotes as Joey Wheeler.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, because he wasn't a wordy fuck, was he?
And I will interpret them as your past. So we start. Raftalia's my anime waifu has returned.
Writing to me is simply thinking through my fingers.
You were born with your brain literally in the palm of your hands, where it remains
Jesus.
to this day. You are a
Jesus.
medical anomaly.
I think
next
I
up-
think there was a Doctor Who episode about that, actually.
Fuck. Next up, we have Polly wanted tap that. I assume it. Look, I would do it as if I were a pirate's bird, but I have to do it as Joey. So okay, I'll do it as a pirate's bird. Hey, Yugs! Polly wanted tap that.
Yes, the parrots from Brooklyn. Yeah, right. Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent.
You killed someone in your past, but you did it very poorly. Next up, Pizza Cotton Candy is my waifu.
Life is pleasant, death is peaceful. It's the transition that's troublesome.
You have recently died.
Jesus.
Next up we have Magic Ice Ball.
Never let your sense of morals get in the way of doing what's right. Yeah.
You helped an old lady across the road.
As we all know, one of the most morally incomprehensible things you can do. You gotta let natural selection take care of those old ladies.
Next up we have Hermione pegs Harry and Ron.
Yeah, is that what they call one of them girl boss moments? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just checking. Part of the inhumanity of the computer is that once it's competently programmed and working smoothly, it's completely honest.
A computer recently told you that your butt did not, it did look fat in those jeans, and you felt very offended. Next up we have my dear old mom.
I don't expect to live forever, but I do intend to hang on as long as possible.
You found the Fountain of Youth and then decided, nah. Next up we have Chelsea Nussbaum.
If my doctor told me I only had 6 minutes to live, I wouldn't brood. I'd just type a little faster.
You're one of those people you made a TikTok on one of your elderly relatives' deathbeds. Next up we have Blood Cell, back to not being the white one. Fuck those guys, they're way too aggressive.
If knowledge can create problems, it is not through ignorance that we can solve them. I mean, we've come to realize that Asimov is not exactly a comedy generator, is he?
You're struggling on your math test. Next up, we have none other going above and beyond, Dylan Hayden.
Can I say this one?
You're damn right you can.
Fuck creationists anyway, so let's do it. Creationists make it sound as though a theory is something you dreamt up after being drunk all night.
You came up with a brilliant theory last night after getting blackout drunk, and you got some new business plans. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to reach out, whether it's for a comment, question, feedback, or recommendation, you can tweet us at AnimeConPod on Twitter or send an email over onto animeoutofcontext@gmail.com.
Once again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. We love and appreciate you very, very much. And as always, don't fuck your sister. You gotta let natural selection take care of those old ladies. I don't know, Rem. I feel like your birthday is much more important than us, reminding ourselves of all those old ladies we killed.